Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about if the NBA has gotten a little bit more physical. We're going to be talking about Troy Weaver making a choice in the stands of the most recent Pistons game. We're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns and some of the improvements that I've seen watching their games recently. They've gone through this awesome stretch of games. And then finally, we're going to do an NCAA conference tournament preview. Now, hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this gonna be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce Simon is here with me. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? I've been watching movies recently, Sam. So I don't think this is what we're supposed to do at the top, but maybe at the end. I've watched a recent movie. We have one on tap tonight, unless we get comments that say, Bryce, don't watch this. So we got some movie conversation, but otherwise I'm on spring break, so life is good.
I love it, man. I had to do a big day of draft guide writing yesterday, and my dopamine hit for, when I finish a profile or when I, kind of get through a big chunk of things is I will buy Blu-rays, just to get that happiness hit after sitting in front of my computer for a long time, just grinding film. So I bought 8 Blu-rays yesterday. It was great.
Hold up. People still buy you don't just watch on Netflix?
Oh yeah, Bryce, look at all that stuff back there. Top 2 rows.
Why?
That's a small amount. The image is quite a bit better. The sound is drastically better. And on top of it, these streaming companies, you just don't know when they're going to take this stuff off and on their services. Apple, for instance, has not released any of its movies in physical form, except I think for Velvet Underground. Which is a Todd Haynes documentary, which means if Apple decides HBO Max and, Warner decided to just take movies off of their channel, then those movies are kind of gone. So having the physical copy is great. Having the physical copy is really good, Bryce.
Okay, if you say so.
Hashtag physical media, baby. It's a very niche thing.
I didn't know it was a thing at all. All I ever see is people getting off their Blockbuster jokes all the time. And so I thought I thought any sort of hard copy movie, DVD, Blu-ray, I thought it was all gone. I thought it was over. I thought we were in the dark. We still use Dish Network. I thought everybody streamed everything. TV, everything was streaming, and we were the old fuddies that, still at least watched our TV using Dish.
It's making a comeback, Bryce. It actually is truly, it's a niche thing. Don't get me wrong. Every year or so, Sean Fennessy and Tim Simons, have you watched Veep? That's a show that is possible for you, I guess. So Tim Simons was on Veep, and Sean is, the editor in chief, whatever his title is at The Ringer. And he has a podcast all about movies, and they get on every year and do a big, Blu-ray, psycho shit, podcast, where literally the episode this year, they said something that I literally did exactly. I was like, do I need this True Romance copy that's a limited edition from Arrow? And I know all the Blu-ray labels now. I'm that crazy person, the distribution companies. And they were like, do I really need this? Yeah, I need it. And I bought it. And I literally had done that 2 days ago. So this is where I'm at.
As Dave reminds me, the whole show's branding is around physical tapes. Obviously I'm not good with context clues. I just watched the intro. I watched Steph Curry bang a 50-footer. I watched Kai Jones dunk. I laugh. I smile. I don't pay attention to the rest of it, Dave. With all due respect, you do an amazing job. I love you. Thank you so much for all you do. But I'm drinking my chai tea, this lovely chai tea that my wife made. She is amazing, and she did it right the first time. I'm not watching the intro, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, and to be clear, someone brought up the idea of region-locked Aussie Blu-rays. I have a region-free Blu-ray player, so I buy all around the world and just get, if I buy them from the United States, I send them to my parents' house and then I will, go pick them up
Hold
at
up.
some point. Yeah.
What does region locked mean? This sounds like me getting blacked out by NBA, 5 different NBA teams. Like they lock
Not
you.
dissimilar. So every country, there are like regions. There are 3 regions for Blu-rays. It's like the North American region, the European region, and the Asia Pacific region, kind of. So they're A, B, and C, and most Blu-ray players that you buy, they end up having one region. But I have bought one that is all regions, basically.
Whew. Whole world
Yeah.
I did not realize existed still. Cool.
Whole world that absolutely exists. And I am a crazy person that buys them all the time and spends like Bryce, I spend way too much money on this shit. Like
Listen,
it's sad.
Sam, as somebody who is like money is like my thing in terms of keeping it and not spending it. Everything behind you right now stresses me the heck out. Like I can't look at your background because I'm like,
Well,
those
so
shoes you aren't actually wearing, those movies, there's no way you're actually watching. This is stressing me out.
well, the books below them, I do watch the movies. The books below them, I like to get away from screens. So I like having a physical copy of books now. Like I used to be a Kindle guy, but the physical copy of books is like really, really valuable for me to like move away from
Sure.
like screens and everything. I have no excuse for the Blu-rays. I just like them. Okay. So speaking of people who don't like things, a Detroit fan decided to admonish Troy Weaver. Let's go with admonish. That seems like a reasonable assessment of what happened. And I believe that the response from Troy Weaver was, "I'll fucking beat your ass." Is that what happened?
Yeah, that was pretty close. There was an F word in there somewhere, and there was the beat your ass in there somewhere. I don't know if it was all in the same sentence, but within a 10-second video, an F word and a threat were made. And then he got him kicked out.
Not great. So like, do we think this is just like Troy Weaver, like feeling the stress? Do we think this is Troy Weaver, like probably should not go out in the stands and be amongst the fans when he's in the middle of a catastrophic season? How do we assess what has happened here? And I mean, this has to look, I don't know what the Pistons are going to do, but like stuff like this can't happen. And if you lose, not only has he lost the confidence of the fans based on performance for very obvious reasons, he's been catastrophic since he took over, but then you start like accosting the fans. I don't know why you would want to employ him if that's the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like it's one thing to be bad, but like people still like you. Like maybe they want to give you the benefit of the doubt because you're learning from mistakes and that type of stuff. This doesn't help ingratiate you with the fans or want the fans to give you a second chance or anything like that. And quite honestly, it takes the attention off the court where maybe in an 11-win season, you want the attention off the court, but they have won 2 out of 3. And we're talking about this, right? Like we're talking about this instead of the stretch that Cade Cunningham has been playing or how good Simone Fontecchio has been since the trade deadline. Like all of this stuff that we probably wouldn't talk about on the podcast, but it's another reason to talk about the Pistons negatively. My one caveat in all of this, and I will not excuse Troy Weaver unless we hear this, is we don't have the very beginning of the video. If something completely unreasonable was said, a racial slur, something like that, my opinion around this changes drastically. If that happened, this has been a few days. We haven't heard that. If Troy Weaver can't handle you suck at your job, he probably shouldn't sit in the stands. Like, what does he think fans are going to say to him? Sam, I won't sit in a crowd at my kid's 3rd grade basketball game. I won't sit next to my own family because they say ridiculous stuff and yell at the officials and it makes me uncomfortable. Like you just have to understand. Now, if you want to sit in the stands, then you probably should be prepared for this. Here's the other thing. If the fan is saying this stuff and it's unreasonable, I understand getting him kicked out, but you can't stand up and tell him you're going to beat his ass and drop an F-bomb at him. Like, what are we doing? There's just no way around it unless something was said that we don't currently know.
You just have to have awareness about the whole thing. You have to have an awareness of who you are, what your position is with the organization, what your success level has been within the organization to this point, and understand that people are not happy with you. Like that's the thing that like worries me most about this is where is your self-awareness on how happy your fan base is with you? Like to sit in the stands, like you shouldn't be sitting in the stands right now. You can be down on the court and then you can like, walk through the tunnels or whatever pregame and then like go up into a box, whatever you want to do. You could sit, courtside ish if you want to. Like that's probably going to be like a more reasonable way to do it. But like being up in the stands, and I don't know why he was up in the stands. Like maybe there was something weird happening that caused that. But like it just doesn't. None of it made sense to me. None of it made any sense to me that this happened, and I'm still trying to like wrap my head around the whole thing.
And it's a home game. Like as most people would assume that, the GM is there, but like it was a home game. So it's not like he was at somebody else's arena and he can blame it on, oh, well, this is the seat they gave me or something like that. You were the GM of the Detroit Pistons playing at LCA. You can literally sit in whatever seat you want around whoever you want. And again, I think it's a self-awareness thing. Understand what kind of skin you have and what the people around you think about you right now. And whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, fans are unhappy with the job he's done. Fans are not, they don't think he's done a good job. A lot of fans want him fired. Like you have to have an awareness of that. And if you go sit with the fans, you may hear this type of stuff. And if you can handle hearing it, great. Go sit with them. I don't care. But if you can't handle it, you got to be aware enough to know that like you don't have, maybe you had a bad day, but you got to know you have a bad day. You're having a bad day when you're in that position and you can't go listen to those things. So like it's hard to give him a pass. Like again, unless something was said that we do not know, I don't know how you give him a pass. And it's just another thing. It's one thing to be bad at your job. It's another thing to then like be embarrassing the organization publicly as well. Like there's been some like the Isaiah Stewart thing wasn't pretty. There's some things in the past from the last couple of years with the organization. Like they have a civil lawsuit against them right now for inappropriate behavior. Like it's just none of it's good. None of it's good.
Well, and there's all that piece of it. On top of it, there is the perception that the front office is nepotistic and hires, friends and things like that. Like, again, like that happens in a majority of front offices league wide. Like we need to just be real about this and understand that the NBA, like they tend to hire people that they know, and more than anything, because of the leak factors, because of everything like that, people they can trust is a big factor here. NBA teams and lead front office executives hire people that they can trust in order to get their message out or to keep their message from getting out. I don't think the Pistons are, the Pistons are maybe a little bit more egregious in some respects, but like they're not like drastically more egregious than a lot of organizations, I guess I would say, if you like really sit down and like look through it all in a big way. But the perception is that they are.
Sure.
And the perception is that this front office is bad. This front office is bad in part because of that. This front office is struggling in many respects. Just have like more awareness. Like that's what it comes back to for me. Just have more awareness of what your situation is. Have more understanding of who you are to these fans and what you represent to these fans. And honestly, him lacking that understanding, if I was, in a position, if I was Tom Gores, I don't know. I think Arn Tellem is ahead of him on the organizational chart at least, but like I don't know if Arn Tellem has the power to fire Troy Weaver. If I was Tom Gores, like this would be like a real what the fuck are we doing here kind of moment for me.
Well, but what sucks with this is he's probably a month removed from actually one of the more positive moments in his tenure. Like I think a lot of people came out of the deadline. Like, I don't think you hated what the Pistons did at the deadline. Like the process and the idea behind it. Again, they've won 2 out of 3. And it's just like, and then you do this. Like, I'm still not saying he's the guy. I'm not saying I think he should be the guy this summer. I'm just saying for him specifically, there was a little bit of positive momentum in general of maybe he learned his lesson from the offseason and what he didn't acquire. Maybe he made some good moves. Oh, Caden Ivey just had a great game where they played together in the backcourt and both had 30, like those type of things. And then you come out and do this and you're like, again, it's like, there's just so many things. Like, can we trust this guy was he ready for this? Can he learn from this? And it's just like, there's so many things where it's like, it doesn't seem like he has. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm really glad you brought up the point about deflecting away from Cade Cunningham a little bit here.
Yeah.
Cade Cunningham in his last 14 games,
Excuse me.
averaging 23, 5, and 8, only 2.9 turnovers, shooting 47, 41, 90. That is elite from Cade Cunningham recently.
And I'll tell you this, Sam, like recently the starting lineup has been Asar, Stu, and Duran in the front court. And Jaden Ivey hasn't been shooting the ball well in all of these games either. So it's not like it's, the elite floor spacing around. Like Cade has been good. Cade has also been playing a little bit better defensively as well. I have a general question for you before we move on. Can I ask, or you have more on Weaver?
No, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. So this has made me think this situation in general, not this specific situation, within an organization, and you have to pick one or the other, Sam, like you at least have to lead 51%. Is it the GM's job to build a roster the coach wants, or is it the coach's job to coach the roster the GM builds? So essentially, in this scenario, should Troy Weaver be trying to give Monty Williams the team he wants, or should Monty just coach the team and the roster that Troy puts together?
The answer to this is neither, for what it's worth.
Okay.
And that's, and you'll understand why I say that. If anything, it's more the coach's job to play to the GM, if only because most of the time when a new group of basketball executives comes in, they bring in a new coach. Now, most of the time, if you're running a competent, well-run organization, there won't be as many hands in the cookie jar. The owner and everybody involved will allow that front office executive to hire somebody that they will work well with, that they have a similar mind and ideal on what they want to build basketball wise within their organization, how they want to play structurally, synergistically, how we build our roster, everything like that. The best example of this is Oklahoma City, right?
Sure. Yep.
Oklahoma City works all as one unit to build a roster that accentuates Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And also they select players that will work within the Mark Daigneault scheme that has been developed throughout both their front office and through the coaching staff. They all work together as one. The Warriors are another great example of this. Like Steve Kerr, Steve Kerr isn't like heavily involved in basketball operations, but Steve Kerr likes to play a specific style of way with a lot of ball movement, motion-y offense, like things like that. And the Warriors front office, when it's been at its most successful under Bob Myers, went and got players that fit within the context of that scheme. Whenever they wanted to play like heavy, switchable defensive coverages because Draymond was at his prime, then, they would do that and they'd go and get Andre Iguodala, guys like that. Where they floundered with the Warriors was going to get like a counter breaker, quote unquote, in James Wiseman, taking him at number 2 when he wasn't really a scheme fit for them in terms of what Steve Kerr and their stars, additionally with Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, worked within. So I say this to say the Pistons did this shit all backwards right now. You can't have a general manager in Troy Weaver that is under a cloud in terms of, is he the guy? Is he not the guy long term? And then give Monty Williams all of the power in the world and the leverage in the world through a 5-year, $82 million contract. You can go hire some other coach, but you can't give him that kind of leverage over the organization.
And I say that's where my question comes from, because to me, it's like Monty has the most power in the organization, and it's almost like Troy's just got to start building the roster around what Monty wants, or you got to find a new GM. It's just, it's kind of been a weird situation too, as well. Like, Troy was there, Dwayne Casey was coaching, and then you bring in a new coach, and like it made sense, like you said. But then I feel like they made Monty the forefront of this thing. I've always stood by this, that I think there's some disconnect there. I don't think this was necessarily who Troy wanted to hire. I don't know. I have no inside intel. This is just an outsider's perspective, and that there's just a little bit of disconnect on who they want to play, how they want to play, the direction. I don't think the game plan is always the same between the two. I lean towards your answer as well. I was just curious if, the answer is neither, because the whole organization should be on the same page. And so that's what I assume, but I wanted to ask and throw it out there.
No, I love it. Look, this is not a very exciting topic for you, Bryce, but let's talk about something a little bit more exciting. And I just want to know if you can feel that March Madness excitement in the air. Can you?
Yeah. Yes.
It's time to gather around with friends, grab those brackets, and get ready for some heart-pounding action. This year, things are getting even more thrilling thanks to our amazing sponsor, Champs Pay Per Head. We're kicking off the madness with a chance to win big. We're talking a grand prize of $1,000 for the winner of our bracket tournament. Here's the deal, everybody. It's absolutely free to enter, courtesy of Champs Pay Per Head, when you use the exclusive code Game Theory. And guess what? You can even score an additional entry by creating your very own tournament. Now, let's talk about why Champs Pay Per Head is the real MVP of bracket season. With their platform, you're in control. Want to start your bracket at the Sweet 16? Done. Looking to spice things up with incentives for picking underdogs? You can do that. That's not all, though. With Champs Pay Per Head, you can step into the shoes of a bookie and create custom bets to keep the excitement going with your crew. It's like having your own sportsbook right at your fingertips. So where can you find this game-changing platform? Head over to champsportspools.com to get started. This March, be the hero among your friends and create the ultimate bracket tournament with Champs Pay Per Head. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on this slam dunk opportunity. And remember, you have to be in it to win it. Create your bracket with the code Game Theory, GAME space THEORY, for a chance at our $1,000 prize pool. Bryce, let's now talk about the physicality in the NBA, because it's real, man. Like these NBA games, the last like 3 weeks or so, it is just like abundantly clear that there has been, I'm not going to sit here and say like I know for sure, but it's trickling down to the officials somehow that we need to stop rewarding some of the tomfoolery that happens on these drives.
So I set out to disprove this. So you sent me this and I said, I'm going to go see if, like, everybody's talking about this, right? Like everybody's saying the scoring's down, fouls, whatever. So I went and did some stats pre and post All-Star break. Points per game, absolutely down. The number one scoring team, 123.7. Now it's 121.8. We're number 30 pre All-Star break, 107.1. Do you know how many teams are less than 107.1 points per game since the All-Star break, Sam? So 107.1 was the number 30 team pre-All-Star break. How many teams do you think post All-Star break are averaging less than 107.1 points per game? This isn't offensive rating. This is points per game, just straight points per game.
I would guess 10.
Not quite that many. 6. And 3 teams are under 100. Now, I will say the pace is down just a little bit. Okay. So like that, I think, is a factor here with the scoring as well. But this is the fouls drawn. The team that had the lowest amount of fouls drawn was 17.6 per game pre-All-Star break. You want to guess how many teams are averaging less than 17.6 post-All-Star break?
I don't know. That's a great question.
17.6 would be 14th post All-Star break, which means 15 teams are averaging less than 17.6 fouls drawn per game. So that was number 30 pre All-Star break, 17.6. Now it would rank number 14 post All-Star break. So again, I set out to say like, no, like this, like we had that one night where all the games were right in the hundreds. We had the game the other night that both teams were less than 80. I was like, it's just kind of random. And then no, like the numbers back it up. Now, YouTube user does bring up something interesting, Sam, and I know I'm long-winded here a little bit. Injuries. So the bottom 10 teams in points per game post All-Star break, the Grizzlies, we know their injuries. Hornets, no LaMelo Ball. Knicks, you can name them all. Sixers, Embiid plus Maxey is missed. The Magic, they just struggle offensively. The Nets are a dumpster fire. Blazers, injuries. The Wolves lost Cat. The Cavs, Spida, Mobley, and Strus. The Hawks, no Trae Young. So there is some injuries part of this, but the fouls drawn stands alone.
So yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the fouls drawn aspect because this is absolutely a thing here. Shout out to Sravan NBA over on Twitter.
So this is January 31st. Okay.
So fouls before and after January 31st, 2024. He has listed all of the many different kinds of shooting fouls here that you can see. So before January 31st, there were 19.58 fouls getting called. After 17.7, that's a 9% decrease. Shooting fouls, 8.7% decrease. Let's see here. I'm going to grab my little tool as well to be able to write maybe. But the big ones here, I think that you can see are offensive fouls drawn, right? We're just, and I can't draw because I am awful at this, but there are just very clearly fewer fouls being drawn across the board. And the big one that I want to point out here.
Yep. Something we've talked about.
See it?
I did. I didn't see it till you scrolled, but yes.
Defensive 3-second violations. Look, it's not like these things get called regularly. They get called basically once every 3 games, right? They are now getting called once every 5 games. It's a small sample of things, right? It's a very small sample of, things that get called there, right? Having said that, it's a real factor. Like it's a very, very real factor here that it feels like guys are able to camp out in the paint a little bit more, and it's made it a little bit harder. And on top of it, it's a little bit more difficult seemingly to draw the bullshitty fouls that guys have tended to be able to draw. And I don't want to say like all the tape that we're going to talk about today is pulled from the Suns Cavs game, which I finished watching this morning. But I want to be able to talk about this because I find it fascinating what exactly is getting called and what is not getting called here. I think that we're in a place where the adjustment seems to have kind of been made on the NBA's side. It seems like we're in a place where fouls are going to be called less and that we're bringing physicality back to the NBA.
Which is going to be fine as talented as these guys are, right? Like, I don't want the pendulum to swing too far the other way. I don't want it to be like, okay, guys, we talked about the defensive 3-second. I think it'd be interesting. I don't know that I love it. I don't want guys just like body checking and like hand on their hip, guiding them wherever they want to go. But I don't mind the defense giving a little bit more of an advantage. Someone brought it up. Think what an offensive player can get away with in terms of physicality whenever they drive to the basket or, whatever, illegal screens and those type of things. I don't think it's, a bad thing to let the defense be just a little bit more physical. I think the offense will figure it out. Like the offense will be okay.
So we're going to watch this clip here. And this is going to be Kevin Durant, I believe, who's going to get like an ISO on George Niang.
Yep.
Look at George Niang's like hand right here, right? Yep. His hand is like firmly on KD's hip, right? Like that's just like not another way to put it. Like his hand is right there on his hip.
Yep.
Second, look at this. Like KD tries to go into his chest here, I think, to draw contact. Niang does a great job, to be clear here. Like I think this should not be a foul. in the NBA. Like KD is the one initiating that contact. I kind of think KD gets that foul call under most circumstances. He gets the hand right here, where his hand is clearly on his hip. That referee, number 86 there, is looking at this. Like there's no other place that he can be looking right now, right?
Yeah, sure. I think
he goes into the body and lets it go.
I think he would have called the second part of that in the past, like where whether it's KD initiating it, Niang, whatever. Like I think like Niang is a bigger body dude. I think like that looks like pretty physical play. I think they would call that in the past. And as D Stevens says here, like I'm fine them not calling it. You know, like I'm okay. And as we're talking about here,
I'm good with them not calling it. I think it's like completely reasonable for them to not call it. And I kind of prefer that they don't, if I'm being honest, right? Like, I think it makes more sense for the league as a whole to not call a foul like that.
yeah, one like that is fine. Like, I think guys got to play through a little bit of I call that the second phase of the drive. I'm sure I didn't like other people call it whatever, but the initial move is, whatever you do to create the advantage. Once you create the advantage, you got to be able to play through second phase contact. You got to be able to play through a forearm on your hip. You got to be able to play through a chest to your shoulder, whatever it is. If you can't, like, what are we doing? This is supposed to be the best league in the world. If you can't play through that, then don't drive the ball. Find some other way to get a bucket or drive and kick it.
Yeah. All right. We got the telestrator back, Bryce. We're good.
There we go. Okay.
For some reason, it wasn't showing earlier. This next clip here, we're going to see, I believe that this is going to be another one. Like, I mean, just immediately, right? Like you can just see, look how low Niang is getting. Look at how physical he's getting to start this. And he's just like straight up like shoves him out of the play here. I'll replay that because the telestrator was in the way. But I think they would call that a foul previously. I truly think that that is a foul previously.
Yeah.
Especially with the way like KD like kind of goes up like onto one leg here, right? Like he's clearly getting shoved and like pushed off balance there. I think that that gets called previously. And now like you get this little play here with the hand, right? Where Niang like goes and tries to like rip him with the hand. Like that's very much something that might get called. Like that's 25 here. Our ref is that might be Tony Brothers. Clearly just like looking at this, doesn't care. I love it. Like this is great. Let's not call this stuff. And then Niang does a good job. Like we now live in a world where George Niang can like reasonably sort of deal with Kevin Durant at times, right? Kevin Durant had 37 in this game. I'm not saying Niang did a great job on him by any stretch, but like, I like giving somebody like this a chance. Like Niang is strong. He's one of the smartest players in the league. Like, let's do this.
Yeah. Again, I don't want it to go too far though. Like, because at the end of the day, Kevin Durant is a better basketball player than Niang. And like, I don't want Niang to be able to stop Kevin Durant just because he's going to bully him and whatever. I for the most part, I don't mind this play. I don't like if they would have called a foul on the initial post up where like Niang kind of shoves him. I probably like I would have lived with that, but I kind of hate off the ball fouls in general. What I don't want them to let the defense get away though is like stuff raking over the arms, like stuff that actually stops a player from finishing the play. You want to get into their body a little bit on a drive. I'm cool with that. You want to, all of that's fine. Like even this like kind of physical play before KD catches.
Yeah.
I want them to continue to call stuff across the wrists, the forearms, that type of stuff.
Definitely.
But I'm okay with a little bit more body, especially on the perimeter in these situations.
That's absolutely right. So we'll run through this one just one last time here. And then this next one here, this is Nurkic and Jared Allen just going to work. And Nurkic is obviously going to be frustrated because Nurkic is frustrated about everything on a basketball court when it doesn't go his way and he doesn't get foul calls. But I think this like makes total sense to not call this a foul. And I really worry that this would have been called a foul previously. Nurkic is
why is he mad?
like,
Unless Jared Allen does something with his right hand, this isn't a foul. Like Jared Allen has to be able to hold his ground. Nurkic is throwing his entire weight into him.
Yeah. Like, look at this. Look at this. He puts his shoulder like directly into him, right?
And then Allen puts one arm straight up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not a foul. Allen's actually leaning back. Jared Allen is leaning back, Sam. It's not even like he was over the top. Unless there's something with his right arm or something like that, like make the shot or make a move. Like, you know, like if you don't want to shoot over this contest and this physicality, make a move. Make a basketball move and get an easier shot.
This is fantastic defense by Jared Allen. And 100%. I really worry that this would have been called a foul previously. Like, this is exactly the way Jared Allen should play this defensive possession when he gets his Yusuf Nurkic's shoulder like put directly into his body and he just nails it and holds his ground, stays long, uses his 7'5" wingspan and goes.
You know
this
what?
Is the kind of stuff that's great.
I just realized I in the moment I was like, man, this is pretty good defense from Asar. This happened with Luka the other day against the Pistons. Now Luka ended up going crazy. Asar got sick and stuff, but Luka had like 5 or 6 turnovers in the first quarter, you know, and Luka always complains to the officials, but there was a lot like, hold on, Luka's playing the Pistons. Why are they not calling these fouls? This is the 10-win Pistons. The Pistons, like these are usually fouls. And now that we're going through this, it just triggered for me. Like it was a difference that night as well. Like they were Luka Doncic, one of the best players in the league, known for drawing fouls against a rookie in Asar Thompson. And they weren't bailing him out in a lot of those situations that they normally would. And they kind of just looked at him like, hey, keep playing, man. So, and I thought it was good defense. So
this last one here is actually near the end of the game, 20 seconds left, 4-point game. Kevin Durant's going to switch on to Darius Garland. Garland's going to beat him. And what I want to point out here is Kevin Durant's off arm, like this whole time. Like he makes first contact with the off arm, like
about the 3-point line
here. Yeah. Like right at the 3-point line or so, like right there. There it is.
Yeah.
That is like full scale. Like this is like hand checking, right? Like this is where we're at. Durant gets beat and then puts the left arm on him again. Like that is Durant's left arm right there on Darius Garland again. Drive. I think he does fine. Like once he gets once KD's beat and he's just like recovering, but like we're full scale allowing hand checking here at the end of these games now. Like the other game that I thought was the Boston Phoenix game, like they really just kind of let Boston like get super physical with KD and like kind of hammer him, felt like a little bit at times.
Would you agree this could go too far one direction though? Like,
yeah, like honestly, like I kind of think this should be a foul.
Well, I'm just saying like everybody I assume listening has played basketball at some point in their life. And if you haven't, you'll understand. But like, if you are allowed to just completely put your forearm on an offensive player's hips, you can really guide them where you want them to go. Like, or at least it's a lot easier. Now, in this case, Garland still gets by him because Garland was unbelievable in this game. But there is a point where it almost becomes a complete disadvantage to the offense if you allow it to go too far and too much.
Yeah, no, it does. Honestly, though, I'm fine with it. I think this one is like a bit egregious. Like I think this is like a full scale hand check where like Kevin has his arm on him. But you know what? If I'm Kevin Durant and I've had George Niang leaning against me for 40 minutes now, I feel like I'm probably entitled to it. Sure. And I'm good with the refs kind of letting this one happen. Like I'm good. If you're going to be consistent, that's the key. It felt like this game was consistently officiated in a way that allowed for a competitive basketball game that was where the defense at least had a chance to defend.
Well, and like, I guess to counter my own point, maybe the offense is so good it doesn't matter. Like maybe these guys are so talented, so skilled with the ball, can play through contact. There's so much spacing on most teams because that's what people put on the floor that it doesn't matter, right? Like maybe they're going to be so good. And to your point, now the games, even if you take it down 5% or 10%, the elite player, like they're almost going to stand out more now, right? Like, don't you think the elite of the elite will stand out even more? The most skilled will stand out even more, and it'll be even more fun to watch because it's not everybody doing it. Just the very, very best do it. And the games are more competitive, like you said. I'm for it as well. I just don't want it to swing too far. I've seen too many things in the world where the pendulum just swings all the way the other way. I don't think that can happen because scoring still does sell and all of that. I don't think the NBA would let it go that far. But I think a little bit of a redirect here wasn't a bad thing.
I think that it really needed to happen. I think it became too hard to defend at the end of the day. This is also from Sravan NBA over on Twitter. Free throw attempts before and after January 31st, 2024. Sharp drop in offense after January 31st. The main reason is due to less free throws, right? So as you can see here, a lot of these teams, again, like the 76ers and Knicks, dealing with a lot of injuries, right? So the 76ers, you would expect them to get less free throws without Joel Embiid in the lineup. But like the Pelicans,
that doesn't make sense. Celtics doesn't make sense. Bucks doesn't make sense. Magic don't make sense. Warriors don't make sense. Nuggets don't, like, none of those other teams make sense. Those teams are all healthy.
That's right. Now, there are two different ways that we can kind of go about thinking about this, right? So if we think that, not drawing fouls is going to be like a valuable thing, not being able to draw fouls and, score what I think Dave Dufour refers to as ethical buckets, right? The fact that the Timberwolves are like still fine is interesting to me. The Clippers are definitely fine because they just don't draw fouls. Like they're a jump shooting team to begin with. The Miami Heat being like relatively low here is really interesting to me. So where I want to take this conversation now, Bryce, is who does this benefit? What teams league wide does the decrease in foul bullshit hinder? Or who does it help?
Well, I think it hinders somebody like the Sixers. Is as I look at this list, I think the team it helps the most is the Nuggets. I think my thought process there is the Nuggets, just by this, don't necessarily rely on free throw attempts a ton. And a team with somebody who's not crazy athletic in Jokic, but is physical. Jamal Murray's not like them, like maybe not the most athletic team where they can be a little bit more aggressive with their hands and being physical in that way. So that's the first team that made sense to me that jumped off. And as people are saying, the best shooting team. So the Celtics would make sense to me.
So I have one team particularly, I think it really helps. But who was your last team?
I was just going to say, the Celtics are so handsy anyway. If they're getting by with even more, they're going to be really tough to score on. The old 6'9" Raptors project.
To me, the team this helps most is Minnesota, like for sure. Because Jaden McDaniels like constantly lives on the line of foul trouble, right? Allowing him and Anthony Edwards to get physical on the perimeter with these guys defensively is going to make it really hard because those dudes can go when they want to defend. Like they can really, really get into people and make life miserable. So I think that they're really going to benefit with or without Towns, because like Towns is probably the one that like, draws the most like foul bullshit kind of stuff. But even like with him, without him, they're still an elite rim protection team with Rudy Gobert. They have great perimeter defenders. Anthony Edwards is like a shot maker more than he's like some foul drawing maestro. The big thing for them is like, it might not matter if they don't figure out the end of the shot clock stuff and the end of the game stuff in terms of execution, because holy shit, are they just like catastrophic? It feels like in those moments, unless Anthony Edwards goes God mode.
Yep.
But to me, they need to figure out that. And if they do, they are actually really well positioned now because of how physical teams are now allowed to be. The other team that I kind of think it helps is the Clippers because they have physical perimeter defenders like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and they're not as reliant on the foul bullshit.
Yeah.
They just are going to go get buckets. So I kind of think the Clippers, this should help them. Now, like the problem with that take, right, is that the Clippers have been up and down. Let's go with recently. They had those 2 losses to the Kings and Lakers where everybody jumped off the kind of jumped off, right? They lost to the Bucks by 7. They lost to the Bucks again last night by 7, right? And they've beaten like the Rockets, the Bulls, the Wizards. They also beat the Timberwolves on March 3rd in an 89-88 slugfest of a game that like kind of resembled what I wonder a playoff game could look like, right? Like I wonder if some of these games, like against the Bucks where they lost 106-113, like not too dissimilar to, what a playoff game could end up looking like. They obviously need to get, Paul George and Kawhi healthy. Neither of them played in that game on Sunday against the Clippers, but like this could really help them as a good perimeter defense team that also can just go make shots.
Yeah. Like those guys aren't necessarily getting to the, like Kawhi and PG's games aren't reliant. And like, I know that was Harden's game at one point, but on this team, he's a little bit more of a distributor. Like, they're not as reliant on that version of James Harden as 3, 4, 5 years ago. So no, that makes sense. Yeah. Like, I mean, we watched the Timberwolves lose a game. I don't want to say because, but Gobert fouls out of the game. And then obviously the technical didn't help the case, but what if 2 of the fouls that were called on him in that game don't get called under kind of, I guess that game did happen under these. So I guess that doesn't really apply. He still found a way to foul out. So, but
yeah,
in general, it would help keeping him on the floor, obviously. And if less fouls are called, higher chance he does stay on the floor.
The other team that like stands out to me, the Sixers, obviously, but they just need Joel back. And like, we need to see what it looks like. The Knicks, I feel like, are in a weird spot because if they're going to let these guys just like hand check Jalen Brunson to death, that could like really, really cause problems for Jalen.
Interesting. Okay.
He is great with his footwork. But like if you can get a hand on him, it might be kind of tough, I think, for him. He's a little bit smaller. He has great touch and great footwork and one of the best like interior finishers as a smaller player I think I've ever seen in my life. But if you can get a hand on him and like kind of stop him from getting to his spots a little bit less often, it's going to be a problem, I think, for the Knicks, given how reliant they are on him getting to those spots.
No, I was actually thinking kind of the other way. Like you let OG be physical and some, Josh Hart be physical and these guys be physical defensively. And then I was thinking, hey, Brunson, I mean, yeah, he gets to the free throw line, but really he's get to 10, 12 feet and then ball fake, jabs, like do all that stuff. I don't think it bothers him and changes when he gets there. But to your point, what will be interesting is, does he get there 5 times less a game because somebody's able to direct him to the elbow instead of 10 feet from the basket? Like, are they able to keep him away from those spots? I think he'll be fine once he gets to those spots. It'll be interesting to watch if he can continue to do that if this kind of refereeing continues.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm truly fascinated to see what this means for the league. Also, here's the big question, right? Like, if the league said something to officials in terms of how they want things officiated, is it, hey, we're going to like, obviously fewer fouls get called in the playoffs just generally, right? Like that's the reality that we live in as a, basketball community. But are we saying that we're going to just go to playoff basketball from January 31st onward in terms of how the game is called? Or is there going to be another correction come playoff time where they let even more go? Because if it's just like what's happening now, it could impact the title race a little bit, like helping Minnesota's odds a little bit, helping the Clippers odds a little bit. I agree with you, helping Boston's odds a little bit. Having said that, like I've been a little bit concerned with like how easy it's been for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to be able to get into the paint.
Sure.
I think that's been a bit of a problem to this point too. But I wonder if there's another correction coming in the playoffs, because that's typically what happens in circumstances like this.
Yeah, I mean, like we talk about that a lot, right? These guys that draw fouls all regular season get in the playoffs, and like sometimes I didn't feel bad for them. I'm like, I kind of understand why they get frustrated. You get calls for 82 games a certain way, and then you get in the playoffs and they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
Do you think this is enough? I guess is my question. Like what we've seen over the last few weeks, month, whatever it's been, would you want it to go to another level in the playoffs? Or is it kind of like, hey, what we've seen here, January 31st, whatever the date, whatever we want to use, this is exactly what I would like to see, what you would like to see moving forward. And because we know the pace of the games is going to slow down as well. So that's going to lower the scoring a little bit also when you get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think we're good where we're at right now, personally. Like I'm happy with this level that it's at right now. Like I think this is good. It could go too far. I would be interested to see another level like drop in foul calling and everything like that. But also like the way that the game has changed spacing wise is so different. You know what I mean? Like from what it was in the 90s. We're never going to get back to bullshit 90s hand check basketball, where if you go back and you watch those games from 30 years ago, they're fucking miserable to watch. It's never going to happen again. The guys that play in the NBA now are way too skilled as shooters. They create way too much space on the court. It's still really hard to stay in front of guys now. Like that part of it is not changing. Well, so I think where we're at now is like pretty okay, is what I would say.
And some of these guys have such wiggle and suddenness and change of direction. Like you can't even get your hands on them to hand check them because they are so shifty and crafty. Here's a question. Do you think teams will see this and play more up tempo? Because in general, if you get out in transition, there's going to be harder for the defense to lock in on you, to guard you in isolation, those excuse me, I'm sorry. So do you think so sorry. Do you think maybe teams will say, hey, let's get out and run before this defense can get set? Like we're playing the Timberwolves, man, McDaniels, Ant, they're going to be super physical with us. We won't be able to attack them. Gobert's waiting in the lane. Let's just get out and go. Let's just get out and run. Even in the playoffs, even if it means a few turnovers or a few bad shots, that's still better than trying to go against this tough physical defense that they're not calling fouls on. I think no. Like I don't think teams are going to do it, but I think some teams should zig or zag or whatever whenever other teams, like I think some teams should consider it.
I think they should consider it. Yeah.
I don't think they will, for the record. Like I don't think we'll see a more up-tempo playoffs just if teams anticipate this. I think they should though. Some, not all, some.
Yeah, like if you're Cleveland and you have Garland and Mitchell and you can go and you can like really go and you have the spacing issues inherently that Jared Allen and Evan Mobley hopefully back for the playoffs bring, yeah, I'd try and go. Yeah. Oklahoma City, I feel confident that they're going to try and go because that's just the way they play, right? Like if they get transition opportunities, I think they're going to try and play at a really, really quick tempo and play. And they have to try and minimize the defensive rebounding and the rebounding problems in general by doing that. So like, that's just a way to do that is you just go up tempo and force the opposing team to try and get back in transition. Right. So yeah, I can see teams going faster for sure. I'd probably really consider this, to be honest with you.
Be interesting.
Okay. Let's go to the Suns now.
Okay.
So the Suns are the team like I've probably been watching the most over the course of the last 2 weeks, just because they've had like a run of really good games, right? Like they played the Cavs last night. We're going to break down some tape from that game, right? They played the Celtics the game before that. They had that overtime win against Denver. Then they played the Thunder the game before that. They played the Lakers. They played the Mavs in their first game back from All-Star break, right? Like they've played a lot of basketball games against really, really, really good teams. And I think it's really interesting what we're seeing over the course of the last 15 games. The Phoenix Suns have a 110.8 defensive rating. That's 7th in the league in that time. They've had the best rim protection in the league over the last 15 games. Opponents are only shooting 60.6% at the rim. That's the lowest number in the league. They're also only shooting 40.4% on non-restricted area paint shots. So they're doing a great job. Nurkic particularly is doing a really good job, I think, of staying in the paint, using his length, taking up space. But beyond that, I think Kevin Durant has been phenomenal as a weak side protector. And I will call out like Bol. Like, I think having Bol and his length out there has really allowed things to like shrink the court a little bit more in a real way. Like they can just get to more spots now. Like he can fly by closeout on guys, and he can also like be there to protect the paint a little bit. He's been weaponized defensively, I think, in like kind of an interesting way. Now, like, here's what I'll say. I do think a little bit this is like 3-point luck based.
Sure.
The way that their defense is operating is they are selling out to stop like catch and shoot threes, and they're giving up they're selling out to stop the rim and allowing like catch and shoot threes at a level that's a little bit too high. They're giving up a ton of above the break threes. I think they're giving up like maybe the most corner threes over the course of this little 15 game run. And teams are hitting the corner threes. Like they're hitting those threes at like 41%. The above the break threes, though, they're only making them at like 33% against the Suns right now. And that will change, especially when you start to play better teams, right? But I think that their decision to really sell out and try and like stop teams around the basket has been pretty beneficial to them to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I thought all season watching this team, and we've talked about it, right? Like you got to get the big three, and whenever the big three are on the floor, like they're pretty good. I think they've played almost 500 minutes now, a 10.9 net. Their starting five, I think, is the 4th best 5-man net rating in the NBA with 250 plus minutes. So like the starting five, whenever they're all together, is good. I always thought they could score, Sam. I always kind of put, okay, Booker and Bill, like playoffs, do they turn it up a little bit? Grayson Allen will compete if nothing else. I always thought KD was kind of the linchpin of the defense. Like them being good enough defensively was going to revolve around KD being that low man rim protector, uses length, maybe get some defensive rebounds, those type of things. I always kind of felt like, okay, we get to the playoffs. If this team makes a run, yes, they're healthy and the offense clicks, but it's because KD went into that defensive mode. We've seen him before, right? With the Warriors, we've seen him do it. And I think that's what they need to be like. They're not going to be the best defense in the playoffs, Sam, but to be good enough to go win a title, it's going to be on the back of a really strong defensive playoffs from Kevin Durant.
I think that's exactly right. And I think that a lot of these clips from the game last night against the Cavs really go forward and showcase that, right? So this is just in the first quarter. I wanted to call this one out because this is a guy that's been maligned for his defense. And look, he had to deal with Bradley Beal a lot in the first quarter, or he had to deal with Darius Garland a lot in the first quarter. And that first quarter last night from Darius Garland is maybe the best I've ever seen him play. He had 21 points. He had, I think, 3 assists. I think he had 3 potential assists that like his teammates blew on top of that. He was unbelievable last night. But I want to call out Bradley Beal here. So these two are in the corner here to start this possession. Isaac Okoro brought the ball up. They're going to throw this like little pass here to the top of the key. And just look at the way that Bradley Beal deals with all of this action. He's chasing, locking and trailing, stays in front of Garland there, does a great job. They played 2 on the ball there very briefly with Drew Eubanks, right? Garland had been just unconscious at this point. So when they brought in Eubanks, they started to like play a little bit more aggressive on ball screens. So Eubanks comes up, plays even higher than the level of the screen. He really comes up, probably gets to like about that level. They try and double here, get the ball out of Garland's hands. Beal does a good job of making that a little bit trickier. Escape pass from Garland. He still follows. And then we're going to get the deflection and steal from Beal. This is fantastic. Like this is stuff that the last few years, frankly, in Washington, Bradley Beal just like did not do often. Like he was not asked to guard opposing teams like really good players, obviously. But on top of it, he just wasn't very good defensively in Washington. And we can admit that. And that's okay. But I just love this. Like, look at this effort. He locks, he trails, he stays attached. He does a good job playing two on the ball there, stays with him as he moves off the ball for the relocation, then gets the deflection on the wraparound. It's just exactly like textbook in terms of how you'd want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the more I watch NBA, the more I scout college players, all of these guys. One thing I watch for is hand activity, Sam. Like at the end of we just talked about how good NBA players are offensively. You're going to get beat off the bounce at times. You're going to give up an advantage in a ball screen. These guys are too good for you not to be. You can make up a lot by just getting a hand in a passing window, getting a hand in a passing lane, digging at the ball when the offensive player moves it, away from their body. And he did it 2 different times there. He made the pass just a little bit slower. Didn't end up being crazy impact on the pass out of the double, but he was active. And then he chased right away. How many efforts did he make there? 3, 4, 5?
Yeah.
We talk all the time about like, it's not just making the first effort. A lot about times it's you're going to get beat. Will you make the next effort? I think he knew the scout there. He knew Garland was cutting into the lane and then coming right off the pin in or pin down, however you want to call it. And he was ready to, get through that. Multiple efforts with hand activity oftentimes at least makes you a neutral defender.
Well, it doesn't hurt that with that scout particularly, Brad and Darius are quite close. Like Darius played for his AAU team. Like they've known each other for a long time. So like that piece of it, I think he had down pat. But like, it's really important that Bradley Beal is able to chase around and deal with opposing ball handlers and like be able to take on these matchups, right? And the big thing that kind of showcases itself for me with the Suns is that they're just like way more connected on defense when I watch them now. And they're connected despite the fact that, like you said, it's not like this team has played like a crazy number of minutes together with their starting lineups, right?
Yeah.
So this is, essentially a lineup that they could close with the starters just replacing Grayson Allen for Royce O'Neal here. And this time they just run a switch. A lot of the night they were, switching 1 through 4 and then kind of blitzing the ball to get it out of Garland's hands. And it helps not having Donovan Mitchell here, right? Like if you don't have Donovan Mitchell, it's, just trying to get the ball out of Garland's hands, and that can be the scout. So this one here, another switch, perfectly executed. Then we put 2 on the ball here, right? Again, trying to get it out of Garland's hands, Nurkic does a good job staying.
Yeah.
KD does a good job recovering to where he's back now. Look at Devin Booker here on the weak side, right? He's dealing with George Niang. Niang's a real shooter. Where's my little, there it is. He's dealing with Niang here. That's a real shooter, but watch him come over and rotate over and be ready for Jared Allen there, right? Look at Bradley Beal. He's going to come in. He's going to tie in just a little bit, muddy that space, right? Devin Booker does a great job rotating in or rotating up, muddying that space a little bit so that that short roll isn't a super easy pass or play for Jared Allen to make, right? I love here that Nurkic too does a good job kind of cutting off that angle. Kevin Durant, look at his length, cuts off that angle, right? Arms up. This is just great defense to me by the Phoenix Suns. I love everything that they're doing here.
Real quick, Sam, can we make a point that this is all happening on the weak side where it should be happening, not from the strong side? We're not helping off strong side corner on this clip.
Oh, Dallas. Oh my. This is the way this is supposed to look. If you're going to put 2 on the ball, this is the way it should look. And oh, by the way, here's the other thing. I love that Bradley Beal knows the scout. Okoro has made threes this year, like at a reasonable level. He hasn't been a great 3-point shooter, but he's been okay as a 3-point shooter this year. But Beal, I love what he does here. He stays here because he knows that this is a mismatch from Devin Booker. And oh, by the way, the key here with Beal being this low as opposed to being high as Okoro throws this pass, he's going to be able to X out and make an easy rotation out to George Niang. And then you could have Devin Booker X out back to Okoro if he has to. And then by that time, Yusuf Nurkic is back in rotation.
Can you go back just a little bit? Because I think Booker does something really good here as well. Like he meets Jarrett Allen fairly high, I believe. So go ahead and play it. Like So like Jarrett Allen's not just posting him up, like he doesn't have him buried under the rim. He meets him at the free throw line and walls him off right there. And so that way Jarrett doesn't have him all the way. It's not as long of a recovery for Nurkic as he comes out of this. Like just all these little things shorten the distance that people have to cover.
Yep, that's dead on. This one now rotates out to Niang. Booker gets back out anyway, because by the time this ball's reversed here, he's back out, right? This is fantastic. He maneuvers his way around Jared Allen there, who maybe could have done a better job trying to seal him.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
But end of the day, he finds his way around. He's in great defensive position here to get out to the shooter. He gets out to the shooter. Rotates there. Gets driven baseline. They have 2 seconds left on the shot clock now, by the way. Nurkic rotates over. Gets that arm up, right? Arm is up. He's making it hard. Trying to cut off that angle to the Allen dump off here as Allen tries to cut to the rim. Niang does make that pass because George Niang is an excellent passer. But there's no time left.
Yep.
And he doesn't get the shot off. He missed it anyway, but he didn't get the shot off. It's fantastic. Like, it's absolutely fantastic.
I wonder if Nurkic knew the shot clock here and anticipated that Niang didn't have enough time to pass and Allen get a shot off. Like if he understood.
Yeah, I'm trying to look if he gets a look at the shot clock at any point.
He may not. He may be just
I don't
gone.
think he did.
Yeah, I think
he just went.
Yeah, I'm giving him too much credit. Also, I don't think it should be lost. You mentioned it quickly. Kevin Durant's length disrupts this play at the beginning as well, because look how many extra dribbles Garland. So Garland goes, they get the double over on the corner. How many let's see how many dribbles he takes to get it back out after he gets cut off. Like
1, 2, 3.
Now look
4.
1, yeah.
Like that's it. And now he's back out. And now KD is fully on one-on-one. Nurkic is recovering back.
Nurkic is already on his way back. He put 2 dribbles down after Nurkic had left, and that allows everybody to recover. So instead of Darius just being able to throw like a hook pass or something like that, he felt like he had to retreat dribble to a place he could get the ball reversed, and those extra couple dribbles allow everybody else to get back.
Yeah, it's dead on. This next one here, third quarter.
Switch.
Yeah, they do a switch. By Booker. They do a great denial there by Devin Booker, right? This is like almost I almost wanted to call this like an Iverson, but it's not. Like, it's an interesting cut across. Booker does a great job denying the ball. Why the Cavs, this is the start of the third quarter, why the Cavs just wouldn't put the ball in Darius Garland's hands to start the third quarter, beyond my comprehension. But again, here, Kevin Durant staying in front. Look at the communication. Then KD goes out, calls out the switch to Devin Booker, right? Like, look at this. Perfect.
Pointing.
Gets that hand out, points, yells it out, saying, hey, get back to Karras, get back to Karras. High closeout. Fantastic work, right?
Yep.
All of the connectedness here is what's key to me. Everything here just works. It works across the board. And it's clear that they are taking off-ball defense very seriously here, right?
Yeah.
So this is fantastic. Like, this switch here at the start from Beal and Booker, the way that they communicate this is great. We pointed out earlier that Beal was happy to lock and trail with Garland earlier. But I love that switch there. I love the way that Booker hops out. And I love the fact that this could very easily, if they don't switch this, right? And if Beal here particularly doesn't make that jump, right? He's going along this way. What the Cavs want him to do, what the Cavs want Beal to do here, is go over the screen, in my opinion. And then have Booker like stuck here somehow behind Niang, and then Niang would be able to just dive to the rim, right? Instead, though, Beal does a great job here with his off-ball positioning and jumps over,
Yeah.
jumps to the side, cuts off that little cut that Niang could make here. And then you've got this great denial here from Devin Booker, right? Devin Booker's defense has been underrated for a couple of years now. He is really, really good when he's engaged on that end. Then this one here, we're just going to get a little mini switch here from Grayson Allen and Kevin Durant. Now it's Durant on Karis LeVert. And then the switch again, the beautiful communication, the high closeout. This is just fantastic. They're so connected and sharp. Everything that they're doing right now is so connected and simple, and they're keeping it simple, I think, is what's important.
Well, here's the thing. You talked about Devin Booker's defense. We've talked about Kevin Durant's defense. And I mean, I don't think we're going to like preach Bradley Beal as like this lockdown defender, but when engaged, there's some good stuff, right? There's a chance we see that, Sam, when all three are on the floor, because we talk all the time about when guys have to take crazy offensive usage, it is going to impact the level of defensive energy we see from them. It's not lost on me in this game. We're seeing good defensive energy from all three because each of them knows like, hey, I can go catch my breath this next offensive possession. Book, you just go play one-on-one or run a screen and roll or, whatever. All right, Book needs, a possession off. Okay, Bill, you go get a bucket, type of thing. And so when you're not the sole, like everything of the offense, you can take a possession off or stand in the corner and knock down a catch and shoot if it comes to you. That leaves more energy for what you can bring on the defensive end.
No question. Now this one, fourth quarter. This is not a super easy action to guard. You have Jared Allen and Darius Garland going into an empty side ball screen action.
In late transition too. Like we're going to have a set defense. Nurkic is at half court when the screen happens for those not watching live.
That's exactly right. You have no help behind you if you're Kevin Durant, because that's where Nurkic is. Got KD here. He has to find a way to cut off this angle from one of the fastest, like jitteriest guards in the league. And you know what the big key here is for me? Look at Devin Booker again.
Yeah, fights.
Devin Booker does such a fantastic job getting over the screen. Jarrett slips it. Like, let's be clear. Jarrett probably needs to set a better screen here. But I love how Devin Booker gets over the top of this screen, stays attached. They have two on the ball now.
Here comes Grayson
Allen. Yep. You've got Grayson Allen rotating over this way to tag Jared Allen. You've got Devin who's going to try and recover back out if he can. And now you've just got this, which is a fine matchup for the Suns. Yeah, for the Suns, right? Because you've got Kevin Durant and all his length dealing with Darius Garland. He just lets him wrap around, right?
That's great effort from Grayson Allen, Sam. Like he just went from the help guy to the closeout guy in about 2 seconds.
And what I want to call out with Grayson particularly is look at him turn his head, right? He turns his head before the passes.
Oh,
he wants to see where his man is ahead of time.
Yep.
If you see Grayson Allen's vision right here, while Garland is still under the rim, Grayson's vision is turned to see where Craig Porter is because he's guarding Craig Porter here.
You know what this is a great example of? Just like understanding of basketball. I think a lot of times we show clips of guys that don't help Sam. This is a great example of somebody not over helping. If Grayson Allen went and stayed home here, that's an overhelp. You have 6'11", 7-foot Kevin Durant guarding Darius Garland in a position under the rim where KD has the advantage. This would be an overhelp if Grayson wasn't doing what he was doing. So this is a great job of understanding the situation and realizing I've done my job. KD's good. I can go find mine.
Yep, that's exactly right. He goes back. More than anything, it's that Booker is recovered onto Jared Allen, too.
A great peel
knowing
there,
that Booker has the leverage now to be able to deal that. Allen can peel off, can fly back out to Craig Porter. The closeout is fantastic. Like, look, if this is a better shooter than Craig Porter,
yeah, sure,
that ball's going up,
right?
And that's the reality. That ball will go up if it's a real shooter, but it's not. And Grayson does a really good job of making sure that he's available there. Then they're going to communicate just this little switch here, right? Where Grayson's going to peel off onto Darius Garland. Kevin Durant's going to take the drive from Craig Porter, cuts it off entirely. This is, again, just like such evidence of Kevin Durant being absolutely fantastic on defense right now. Almost in all of these clips, Kevin Durant is absolutely elite on the defensive end, just in terms of what he's covering ground wise. So he does a great job here cutting that off. Then even the big guy with the closeout, right? Like, yeah, you would hope George Niang isn't just going to step out of bounds. But Nurkic could have easily just decided, fuck this, I'm going to peel off and just go wait for the rebound. The fact that he stepped out to him at least speeds Niang up and makes it so that he steps out of bounds.
And the thing
That's
is,
turnover.
KD and Book are locked in. So I guarantee you Niang's not making an uncontested layup there. Like, he's either scoring this over a contest from KD if he doesn't step out of bounds, or he's having to drop it off. But yeah, I mean, there is, again, how many times did you say Kevin Durant on that possession? And it was multiple efforts, right? Like, first he gets back in transition, then he switches out, then he switches out again. And then, like, it's just multiple efforts. It wasn't perfect, right? The ball touched the paint for the Cavs, but they found a way to not let a bucket happen. They forced, they got a closeout, didn't give up an open catch and shoot. They were going to force another drive from Niang. Like, they're not giving up wide open shots at least. And you're going to get broke down at times. Can you not give up a wide open attempt?
That's right. And I think that this one might be the final one here. So this is 113-111, right? This is end of game. This is critical, need a stop moment, right? Bradley Beal and Drew Eubanks, they take this again because Beal was on fire. They decided to put two on the ball here, right? So
Garland, because Garland was on fire.
Ball screen. Yeah, because Garland was on fire. Sorry about that. Again, this is like an easy short roll, but both Kevin Durant and Grayson Allen are sagged into the paint here. They're ready in case. And the reason that they can do that, by the way, this is great, just like advanced scouting, I would imagine, by the Suns. Isaac Okoro, who, look, again, has made corner threes, but still does not get treated as a shooter. And a lot of his corner threes are wide open. Karis LeVert, like a guy that teams are comfortable leaving open at the end of the day. So they can sag in. They can be ready for anything that's going to come with this short roll pass, right? But regardless, Bradley Beal gets back. And now we're at 16 seconds left on the shot clock. And they're in nothing. They're in nowheresville yet.
Can you go back real quick? Because I can already hear people yelling at us. There's also not a direct pass from Darius Garland to Isaac Okoro right now. Like, he would have to pass it through Eubanks and through Devin Booker to Okoro in the corner. So, like, I also wanted to make that point. But yeah,
this pass is not there. Like, you have to go right through Devin Booker here. That pass is not there. So now they come up, they do a little switch. They're going to run a 1-2 ball screen, basically, where they're going to slip it with Craig Porter on the empty side. And they're going to force the switch. Part of, what you do when you run slip actions is you force the switch. And that's a matchup that they want. They want Grayson Allen on Darius Garland, right? Like, this is a matchup that the Cavs feel like they can be successful in. But then you've got Grayson Allen just doing an unbelievable job for as long as he can, staying in front of of Darius Garland there. Like, if you can stay in front of Darius Garland in a switch for like 6 dribbles, that's fine. He's going to beat you eventually, but then it's rushed, it's sped up. He stays in front of like 3 moves. Yeah, Garland beats him, but then you've got set defense here where Beal is digging in. You've got Drew Eubanks stepping up. You've got Devin Booker sliding down and making it so he can be there to tag the dunker spot. Garland throws this ball up to Jared Allen. I think this is the right read, frankly. I trust the Jared Allen lob more than I trust Isaac Okoro corner 3-pointer in this spot.
I mean,
I think, but like, and just let me finish this.
Yeah.
I think that because You've got Beal there. You've got Eubanks flying at you. You've got Grayson on your hip. That's not an easy pass to make.
So I think like Garland should make this pass, but to your point, and I want you to go, can we pull it back up? Because Booker was calling this out 5 seconds before it happened, and he ended up a little bit late. To your point though, Sam, there's a difference in like going one move, straight line drive, nobody else around you. Like think about everything Garland has had to do already. Look at Booker. Booker's already telling Eubanks that he's going to have to help. Like he's calling it out already. So we're talking about like awareness, anticipation, understanding of what's going on. But like you said, Grayson makes Garland make multiple moves, multiple efforts. Bill's digging in. Eubanks is stepping up. Like that does affect the efficiency of a jump shot, a pass, dribble, like everything else. So that's why when Grayson Allen makes him take 6 dribbles to go by, it matters. Because if it was one dribble straight line drive, Garland probably execute this pass if Bill's not there, if Eubanks doesn't, those type of things. So I do think it matters. Booker's just like misses where Allen's at, but he called this out 2-3 seconds early. He just misses tagging out. He just doesn't get to him quite quick enough.
Yeah, and look, like Booker actually takes a look back there. You can see if I can get the right frame, right? Like he sees where he is, he just doesn't get there, right? Like, man, it's hard to get that one.
I think it's like right here. Yeah. He takes a peek right there.
Looking. Yeah, he's seeing where he is, and he just kind of misjudges it, right? He makes the play, and he makes it a little bit harder on Jared Allen, right? Like he ends up not being able to, just that feeling of that rotation being there, I think makes it a little bit harder for Jared Allen. But you expect Jared Allen to make this at the end of the day. Like that should be the reality of where we're at. But yeah, like this is a well-tuned defense right now. They're playing incredibly well. I love everything I've seen from Phoenix on that end of the court. Offensively, there are still some things to figure out. Their bench units, they really need to figure out because the second quarter last night was pretty rough.
Yeah.
But man, like I think Phoenix looks a lot more sound, a lot more coherent, and a lot more solid than what I've seen recently.
Yeah. And I mean, this is all their defense has to be, right? Is, you don't have to be the best defense, but if you're good, if you're making rotations, if you can do the things in the right moment, that's all they need, because I think the offense is going to be good. Like, and yeah, there's sometimes, listen, whenever the ball is moving, they're so much fun to, they had like an attack, one more to the corner bucket. And it was like, this is beautiful basketball. Like, how are you going to guard these guys when KD's taking the double, passing out of it, then Booker attacks the closeout, then he kicks to Grayson Allen in the corner, and we know Grayson's having a crazy year. Or you tell me this, maybe I was sleeping on Bradley Beal. I think Bradley Beal, like knock on wood, looks healthy, energetic. Like I think he's just moving. Like I just put springy. Like I don't know. Like I can't find the right word for it. Like I know Bradley Beal's athletic, right? He's in the NBA. But he just looks like he's moving with
he looks way better.
Right? Am I crazy feeling that way? I think he looks good. And so
no, I think he's moving fluidly. Like he's never been, it's never been his game where he's like the best athlete in the NBA.
Yeah.
But he's moving very fluidly. He's getting to his spots at a real clip. Like he's knocking down threes off of some real movement. Like he's been shiftier, I feel like, in his movements. I think Beal's been obviously Bradley Beal is going to be a big addition to any team that he joins, and they were unfortunate not to have him for like a big part of the season, but this is where he's looked his best so far. This little stretch here is by far where he's looked his best.
Yeah. I watch him play and I'm like, I like the energy, even in some of those clips you were showing there. Like I'm always being like, are guys in a stance? Like, are they even engaged? Do they look like they're playing? Because sometimes the offense will, make a decision on driving or not based off that. He was in a stance. His change of directions were low and explosive. I think he looks good. I'm like, they're a very interesting team if healthy, because we've seen the chance for the defense to be locked in. And if the offense can find that flow and that chemistry, and then again, like if we do just have to go isolation and get a bucket, you got a couple really good guys that can do that as well.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin Durant last night, like we probably are not appreciating what Kevin Durant is doing this season enough. Kevin Durant is averaging 28.5, 6.7 rebounds, 5.5 assists on 53, 42, 85. Like Kevin Durant is 35 years old and he has had an Achilles tear like in his past. Nothing that Kevin Durant does surprises me, I guess, but we shouldn't take it for granted. Like over his last 18 games here, it's basically the same. Like he's averaging like 29, 7 and 5. Like he's been unbelievable for the Suns this year and is like a no doubter NBA like all NBA guy this year. Like a no questions asked guy.
Sam, 83% 0 to 3 feet, 54% 3 to 10, 49, only 49, 10 to 16, 53, 16 to the 3-point line. And then, as you mentioned, 43% beyond the 3-point line. He's shooting 50% from corner threes. So again, like, I know this isn't what you do with Kevin Durant. You don't put him in the corner, but like, again, Kevin Durant just made 2 crazy defensive plays, right? And is a little bit gassed. Hey, KD, go stand in the corner. Let Book and Bill work. Oh, our one more pass is to 50% from the corner, Kevin Durant. There could be worse scenarios to be in. Like crazy efficient. I am excited, Sam, to watch him turn it up defensively in the playoffs. I've felt this way all year. Every time I've watched him, like, I just have a feeling that we're going to see that kind of defensive takeover. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I just kind of had a feeling that we might see that from him in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing it now, which is fantastic. Okay. Let's now move to NBA draft stuff and talk about some conference tournaments that we're excited to look forward to at least.
Let's do it.
I am really pumped about this week. As we speak, the ACC tournament has begun and there's bad basketball on TV, which is something that I'm not watching yet, but I'm sure at some point we'll get to that stage where we get to watch the really, really crappy basketball. Louisville and Georgia Tech have been eliminated already. I am just excited to get a chance to see more of these guys in like winner take all super high level competitor situations.
This is an underrated 4 or 5 days of college basketball that, everybody listen, next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is like, that's prime time, right? These conference tournament week and weekend is pretty cool. Like it's a lot of really good basketball and you get kind of the rivalries and all of that. I think I've always kind of underestimated what conference championship week was, like how good it was, how much good basketball there is. So I'm really excited. And yeah, there's some guys in particular that, listen, I know we can't overcompensate, what players do in conference tournaments or NCAA tournaments. There's some guys that's like, okay, excuse me, I'm probably not going to change how much my evaluation a lot. I feel pretty locked in, but there's some guys I'm intrigued by. Like you said, we get a chance to see them in high pressure situations. We get to see them back to back. We get to see them against a team for a third time who maybe has scouted them or, maybe figured something out. So there is a lot of data and value we can take away from these. And, there's going to be some really good basketball to watch. So it's been a little slow here to start and it's about to really pick up tomorrow.
And on top of that, like this is the last chance to see a lot of these guys.
Too, yeah, that's true. Right? Yeah.
So like Keyshawn George is like warming up right now, or like their game just started. This is potentially his last game of the season.
I mean, they're in the second half. They're down by 12 in the second half, Sam.
Against Boston College, by the way. Like that team feels like it stopped playing serious basketball like 2 months ago. They've lost 9 in a row. That's going to be 10 in a row to finish the season. Man, that's a catastrophic end of the season for a Miami team that people thought was the top 25 team.
Quentin Post is hooping. He's got 21 and 9. Just a sleeper big man you guys maybe should get familiar with.
I love Quentin Post. I'm a fan.
2 of 5 from 3. 2 of 5 from 3.
Maybe a two-way guy. Like 24 years old, like might even be 25 before the start of next season, but like can really shoot as a 7-footer. Yep. Like I'm excited. Like I'm gonna go back and like watch this Keyshawn George game because it's the last chance that we're gonna get to see him, and I'm fascinated by Keyshawn George. It's the last chance we're gonna get to see Bub Carrington potentially if Pitt doesn't make the tournament, right? Like if they lose their first game, they're not going to make the tournament. So
Hunter Salas, did they play the first one, or is it Wake Pitt the first game, or maybe that's the second matchup? I have the bracket right here. No, Wake would have to win a game against Notre Dame, who beat Georgia Tech today, and then it would be Wake versus Pitt in the quarterfinals on Thursday. But
by the way, Wake Forest lost to Notre Dame recently.
Yeah.
So, like, real chance that's Hunter Salas's last game. There are just a lot of players. If Colorado loses their first game, that could be the last chance we get to see Cody Williams, Tristan Da Silva, KJ Simpson, which is crazy that they have 3 picks in Maine, or 3 potential picks, and like may not make the tournament. I mean, my God, what are we doing there? But real dudes in this class that we might not see again. And by the way, I was doing this with my editor earlier. Right now, like I think I only have like 14 players with first round grades that are going to play in the NCAA tournament. And that feels incredibly low to me.
Well, you have all of the Ignite guys. I mean, so you take out Sar, Risache, Holland, Topic, Buzelis, all of those guys, Saloon, all of those guys, that's just like that's lottery type conversation. But then Jalen Tyson's not going to make the NCAA tournament. Isaiah Collier's not going to make the NCAA tournament. Keyshawn George isn't going to make the NCAA tournament. Tyler Smith, an Ignite guy, Clintman's in the NBL. Yeah, I mean, that's quite a few guys. I mean, that's guys in my top 25, 30, 35 first round grades or rankings, not grades. So yeah, there's a lot of guys that aren't going to be in it. Because again, like Collier plays Washington tomorrow on Wednesday. I assume they win that game because they've been playing better. But then they get Arizona on Thursday. And so we may get 2 more games to evaluate Isaiah Collier, Kobe Johnson, Bronny James, if you want to go there. So yeah, we're coming down to the end of it with a lot of these guys. It kind of snuck up on me, to be honest.
Right. And the amazing part of the USC thing is like they're playing incredibly well right now.
Yes.
They are playing incredibly well right now. If you look since like February 15th when they beat Utah, they lost in double overtime to Colorado. They beat UCLA. They lost like a super tight, tough game against Washington State, another tournament team, and then beat Washington, Arizona State, and Arizona in their last 3 games. They've been like quite good with that little 5-2 stretch over the course of their last 7. So they're playing well at the right time. Like they could make a run here, which would be really fun, but like they're not favored against Arizona to win that game.
Yeah, no, and that's what I say. Like, and they were so bad, they essentially have to make a run all the way through it to get there. And so, I think lots of times we, get excited about the NCAA tournament, but to your point here, and as we continue to run through these names, now some of these guys that we're talking about, their teams will still make the NCAA tournament, but yeah, we're running out of chances on a few of them. Yep.
What are you most looking forward to? Like, what players are you most looking forward to watching during conference tournaments?
Yeah, so I wrote down a few in the SEC. Colin Murray Boyles is a guy I'm super excited about. Like every time I watch this kid play, I fall more in love with his game. It's a little unique. I think he can shoot it. Word is he can shoot it, but he hasn't been allowed to shoot it for whatever reason, so we don't know. But he has a crazy knack for finishing around the rim. One of the best screen setters. I think he sets awesome screens. I think he has a chance to be good defensively, like has these crazy long arms. He's a nightmare on the offensive board. So I believe this may be a little bit of projection, but I think their first game will be Arkansas. I think that's the Arkansas is the higher seed. So Arkansas plays somebody, but then they could have Auburn and then Tennessee. He plays for South Carolina, for those that don't know. Another guy in the SEC, Sam, Justin Edwards. Like all this stuff about Kentucky. Like at the end of the day, I kind of think we know who Reed Shepherd is. I think Rob Dillingham could do some stuff for his stock, right? Like if the defense picks up some of those guys, but I think Justin Edwards is a name that will be really interesting. Can he continue to knock down shots? Does he continue to take the tough matchups? And is he successful in taking those tough matchups? He's a guy that I think he's already started to generate some of that first round buzz as a true 3-and-D wing forward. He could really lock himself back into the first round conversation with a good stretch here over the next few weeks.
I think that's right. I think he could really, really help himself a lot by continuing to just play at the level he has for, frankly, the last 3 weeks, month or so. Uh, Bub Carrington is definitely a guy that I want to
Yep.
see.
Yep.
He's played really well recently for Pitt. He's knocked down shots. He's consistently seems to be shooting it in a real clip over the last like 10 games or so. I would like to see him and see where he is at because he's a player that I've struggled to get a handle on,
Sure.
to be honest with you. Very real talent, very real creative mindset. I think that he knows how to pass at a high level, takes some kind of shitty shots from time to time, but you kind of live with it, I guess, if you're Pitt, because that's what they need him to do, him and Blake Hinson. I think that he could really help himself here if they could go on a run and like make the tournament. He could be like a guy that solidifies himself like in a reasonable first round pick range.
Well, so say, and while you're watching him, I'm glad you brought up Hinton. Is that's another guy you can watch? Is see what he
Yeah.
does, knocking down shots. You get certain matchups. How does he hold up defending? Another guy ACC that I'm interested in is Tyrese Proctor. Like just I feel like I came in really high on him early in the season. The start to his season wasn't great. ACC play has been decent for him. I'm trying to pull up. So over the past of 15 games, he's shooting 40% from three on 5.5 attempts. He gets some assists, doesn't really turn it over, rebounds it a little bit. So he's a guy that I believe in the talent. Like I like the eye test in general. The numbers are backing it up a little bit better. If he go on a run, like I feel like I know who Kyle Filipowski is, Sam. I feel like I know who Jared McCain is. If Tyrese Proctor like either doesn't play well in these big high leverage situations, that probably kind of leaves it out of for him. If he really shows up, maybe I dive back into some tape and kind of see what I buy and what I don't. It's not the end all be all, but I think it adds to the evaluation quite a bit.
Yeah, and speaking of guards that are pretty solid on defense, like Devin Carter is a guy that I really want to see. Like Devin Carter could really help Providence go on like a pretty big, substantial run here in the Big East. And basically every game outside of this first game that they have to play against Georgetown here, which I would imagine they will win. Every game that you play in that tournament is going to be extremely competitive at the end of the day. And Providence is a team that might make the tournament, might not make it. They're 19-20 or 19-12. They'll go to 20-12 if they beat Georgetown. They have no bad losses. I hope they make the tournament. They have wins against Creighton. They have a win earlier in the season against Marquette. I think they should probably make the tournament if I'm being honest. But man, if they don't and they lose to Georgetown or something, crazy like that, I want to go back. I want to see more of Devin Carter. I enjoy watching the Devin Carter experience.
He's really interesting, right? Because the jumper's not the easiest to buy, but the numbers and he's hit big shots and he hits them from depth. Yeah, I mean they could go on. They beat Georgetown, then they get Creighton, which that's a great game to scout with Trey Alexander. We talked about Baylor Shireman last, even Ryan Cockbrenner as, somewhere in the mix. And then if you win that game, you most likely get a Marquette team, who again, Tyler Kolek has been injured, but sounds like maybe he'll be back. So you can evaluate Devin Carter versus Tyler Kolek. Sign me up for that. Oso Ighodaro.
For what it's worth, I was going to say I'm skeptical Kolek will be back.
Okay, there you go. So, but I mean, you still have Oso in a advanced role, so you kind of get to see what he does in that situation. Again, the Connecticut guys, Klingen, Caravan, those guys. I think Stephon Castle is still a guy I would like to see a little bit more in some of these situations.
100%.
How does he shoot it, Sam? How do teams guard him in these games? How do they guard him in the NCAA tournament? I think Castle will be an interesting one to watch the next few weeks.
Yeah, Stephon Castle, people are way underrating what he has done. I don't understand why people aren't as into Steph Castle as I am. To me, you can make a very serious case where you think Steph is going to shoot it long term, and he's taken them with more confidence now. Over his last 12 games, he's made 37.9% of his 2.5 threes per game. And it's a small sample, obviously, but more importantly, he's taking them with real confidence. I really think he's somebody that like could rise up and could end up being the best player in this class if we look back on it in 5 years. If he can shoot it, it opens up his game entirely to like a real level. That's why I have Steph Castle in the top 5 right now and did, a month ago. He's a great defender. Like he has been unbelievable on defense. And he is also a guy that can handle the ball, can do some stuff in ball screens, showed the passing level in high school and also like within the flow of the play in college. And on top of that, now we're seeing some shooting improvement. Like to me, this is a real dude that nobody is talking enough about, I think. And it's bizarre to me.
What I like the most about is I felt like the shot was in his head. And that's why it actually concerns me less is it got to him mentally. You could see him questioning it. Then, like it messes with your head whenever teams don't guard you. Like that messes with somebody's head. Like it's a sign of disrespect. So you're like, oh, I'm going to show you. And then you miss. Then the crowd gets on you. Then they still don't guard you. As a freshman in the Big East, that can get to you a little bit. So I think a lot of it was mental. I'm not saying the shot is picture perfect. I'm just saying it concerns me a little less because I think it was a mental thing that he has been able to respond from, which is what I love, Sam. Like he bounced back from it. What I love is the way he guarded through all of that. It's not easy to go through the struggles he was going through and correct me if I'm wrong here, Sam. I don't think people thought he was this like big high level defender coming out of high school. Like some of my people I talked to, like there was some questions if he was going to play that hard on the defensive end.
Yeah, not this level at all.
Yeah.
It was an open question for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was super impressed with what he's done on that end of the floor.
Yeah. So here's a question.
Okay.
And you're going to be mad because I didn't put on the spreadsheet, the document. Who is the player that is currently off of the radar? Like not entirely, but certainly not a guy that is considered a first round pick right now.
Okay.
Like off the radar entirely that you think could use this conference tournament season leading into the NCAA tournament like run to really jump into that range.
For me or the consensus?
Consensus, let's say.
Okay, me. Good. I'm glad you said me. Yeah. I'm going to say Khalil Ware. And that's why I wanted it to be me is I think I'm out in terms, like I'm lower on Khalil Ware than other people. If like Khalil Ware goes through this Big Ten tournament into the NCAA tournament and like really like shows some of the stuff that I have questions about, like there's a lot of the physical tools, the skills, those type of things that would really stand out to me. So that's one that I don't currently have him in the first round that I think could do it with a run like this. Go ahead if you have something, because I'm just going to look through my list here.
Yeah, it's really interesting trying to find like the off the radar guy that like could really do it. I wonder if Connecticut goes on the run, we're all expecting Connecticut to go on. If more eyeballs go to Alex Karaban. Because he's been awesome this season. Like I think he got left off of like the all Big East teams, which feels completely crazy to me. He's been fantastic the entire season. He shot it poorly to start, but even then he was still useful. He's averaging 14 and 5. He's shooting 50, 40, 90 right now. By the way, Connecticut has 2 guys shooting 50, 40, 90 right now and averaging like 14 points a game. Alex Karaban is a 50, 40, 90, 14 point per game guy that defends reasonably well, has real length. I look at him and I think, wait, why is this guy like not a potential first round pick? I think he would be like regardless if he was to enter the process, and we'll see if he does that or not. But man, he is, if they go on a run, I wonder if he is the one that like could end up spiking up the board in a pretty real way.
Yeah, I think he's one. I'll give you another one, a guy I've been high on for a while. And Gregory says Justin Edwards. Like I've actually already moved Justin Edwards back really close. And we already talked about him. Deron Holmes is a guy that I consistently see not in first rounds. I don't think people have watched him play this year. And so they just assume he's the same guy he was last year that ended up not getting drafted, going back to school, plays in the A10, third year in college, all of that stuff. And I'm not trying to call people out. Like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying, like, I wonder if people just look at the numbers like, oh, same old thing for Deron Holmes. I just feel like the tape is different this year. Like, I feel like it's different. Like, even the box score, he has shot threes. He's put it on the deck. The passing is better. The numbers are better essentially across the board. I just see a lot of mock. Like, I have Deron Holmes solidly in the first round already. But if he goes and dominates the A10 tournament like he has, and then goes into the NCAA tournament and does it to non-A10 competition, maybe some non-A10 bigs, etc., I think that'll really show something to people where they've like questioned the level of competition for Deron Holmes. So that could be one that's a consensus answer, not necessarily a me answer. Cause like I say, he's already a first round pick for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting one for sure. If they go on a run, like very, very possible that he could be one that does it. If the other one to me is if Creighton goes on a run, I wonder if Baylor Shireman starts to like jump. Cause we talked about him last week. He's a guy that, you know, when I talk to teams, like, I think he's a little bit higher than where people have him more than anything. He's one that I think could make a bit of a jump.
Yep. No, I like it.
Okay.
Who was there another? No, I want to watch Baylor. That was probably the other team. Not that I haven't watched them quite a bit, but like, I want to see what Jacoby Walter does in these. Yves Missi is another guy that's like, I feel like is starting to add things as he goes throughout the season. So I want to kind of see that. And then I'll be honest, like Jalen Bridges is a guy that was on my radar in the past and has shot the ball really well this year. Like, it looks like he gets it off quicker. He's interesting as well. So I think of all the Big 12 teams, especially with the context around KU right now, like McCullough's not playing, Dickinson's not playing. They may be one and done in the Big 12. Like, who knows what's going to happen there?
And honestly, though, like getting a chance to see Furphy like run the show maybe would be pretty fun.
So it's going to be interesting because it's like, okay, I think that could help his stock. I hope it doesn't hurt his stock. Like, I think everybody will understand the context. I think it's a win-win for Furphy in terms of, okay, here's a higher usage role. And if he goes and does it well, perfect. If he doesn't, I'm not going to go, oh my gosh, Furphy went 1 for 12 in this role because they don't have their two best players. So I actually think it may be a good situation for him to be in, even if it doesn't end positively. And there's a chance it may not end positively with those two guys out. So like, Iowa State is awesome. I really love Keyshawn Gilbert's game. He's got to shoot a little better. He's got to cut down on the turnovers. Taman Lipsey is interesting, but like, I don't know, you know, Momchilovich is like, I'm not sure. So like, I like that team. I love that team. Like, I got a chance to watch him practice this summer. Like, oh my gosh, like I want to send my kids there to play basketball. But like, I love them. You know, even Houston, like we've talked about Jamal Shed. I think he's a real guy, a real chance. Some of these best teams, you know, BYU, even like Jackson Robinson, maybe Jackson Robinson with BYU, maybe he's a guy that could, you know, get a little bit of a rise if he just goes on a heater throughout the Big 12 and in the NCAA tournament.
Maybe I don't know.
I don't have him high enough for that to happen.
I get it. I get the Jackson Robinson thing, but like, you know, sort of not.
Yeah.
Like he's just fine to me. 42, 31, 90 over his last 9 games where like he's averaged 15 points. Like it hasn't been, he has a professional scorer's game. Like I get it with him, but I'm not quite as high on Jackson Robinson. You mentioned Jamal Shed. Jamal Shed is a great name. Like if Houston goes on a run, like I think Jamal Shed's a perfect name for this.
Here's another one, Cam Christie, Minnesota. So like, you know, he gets
might be one and done, but yeah,
he gets Michigan State. And then if they beat Michigan State, then they get Purdue. So you get, what would that be in the Big Ten? That would be on Friday, I think. So you get a Friday night game against Purdue and Zach Edey and, you know, one of the best teams in the country. You go out and you hit 4 or 5 threes and show off your athleticism and really guard. Like, even if you lose, you know, these are times where, you know, people have more eyes on things. And so, I mean, we're talking before the recording about, you know, where scouts going places to different tournaments to see guys, like this is a time for them to go out and you can see multiple prospects in one area, right? Like this is why this is a good time for scouts. Is you can go to KC and you can watch Baylor, BYU, Iowa State, all of Texas, whoever, all on the same day. And so you go to this location, you watch all of these guys from one location. So I think Cam Christie is, an interesting guy as well there in the Big Ten.
Yep. I agree. Okay. Let's answer 3 questions or something like that before we go.
I have a question for you. No, I didn't pay though. So Darren can ask.
For Darren Flowers, shout out. Thanks for the super chat.
Yes. Thank you, Darren. You're the man.
I want to ask you something that always confuses me. What does it mean when a player that has a high ceiling, and what does it mean when a player has a high floor?
I love it.
Yeah, high ceiling is like, could be, all NBA player, has the athletic tools to be able to, reach heights that maybe some other guys that are a little bit more limited can't physically reach. And then high floor is a guy that, can certainly play in the NBA based on his skill set, but probably doesn't have necessarily the kind of juice athletically, might have some sort of like missing skill set that limits him in some way, shape, or form.
So what, like Victor, like stuff like, so high ceiling, like, would you agree Brandon Miller was a high ceiling player in terms of what he could do offensively with his scoring? So that's what and in general, I think when we say high ceiling, there also is an inherent meaning of like, if this doesn't work, there could be some problems with it as well.
Yes. Doesn't like Amen Thompson was a great example of this last year.
Yes. Yep. And then high floor would be like Jaime Jaquez, right? Like, I don't think even you, who's the biggest Jaime Jaquez supporter, believer, whatever you want to call it, has necessarily like all NBA potential, but I think you strongly believed he was an NBA rotation player. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I don't see like crazy star upside. I still don't, even with what we've seen from Jaquez so far this year, but I think he's fantastic and I really enjoy his game. And I think he's definitely an NBA player. Like this year, like, I don't know, like, do you see, like, I see Dalton Connect as like a high floor player. Like he's going to be good because he's a great shooter.
He's going to score the ball.
He is going to score the ball. He is a guy that will be valuable in that way. I mean, like high ceiling, it's the reason this draft isn't wildly well thought of is the ceiling question.
Is Ron Holland the best answer here in the lottery?
I don't know. He struggles to shoot it right now. So like, that's difficult. Like Modest, maybe.
So I thought about Modest because if it all comes together, that's a great archetype. I mean, I guess that's my thing.
Honestly, like Steph Castle.
Sure.
Like if it all comes together, if Steph Castle can shoot, it's a real thing. And he is awesome. If Isaiah Collier, like Brian K brings up Isaiah Collier.
Yeah.
If you told me Isaiah Collier could shoot,
yep,
I'm fascinated by Isaiah Collier.
Yep. So I'll give you a high floor guy, and you may not agree with this, like you probably won't, but like Jalen Tyson is a guy who I think is an NBA player who I don't think like turns into a star, all-star, anything like that. But I think Jalen Tyson is a good player.
I don't agree with that necessarily, but not for the reasons you do.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to see. So AC in the comments asked, do you think any of the injured players like Trey, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Scotty Barnes have any chance of making the Olympic team? I'd be surprised. Like it seems like USA Basketball doesn't have a whole lot of interest in Trae Young just based on who they've taken over in previously. Desmond Bane would be interesting, like a real shooter, sniper. They have taken Jaren Jackson. I don't know when Jaren will be healthy. I think Jaren would have a real shot at making the team. Scotty Barnes, like I don't think will probably make it just because I think they'll wait another cycle to get him involved. But he was really involved when he was young though. Like Scotty was on all those youth teams. So seems like they like him.
Yeah. Desmond Bane is the name. Well, Jaren makes sense. Bane and Triple J are the ones that make sense there to me. The most sense.
Right. I think that's right. All right. I think that's all all we got, Bryce. Let's
Okay.
call it here unless you
I
have
need a
one
movie.
more.
No, I need a movie recommendation. So we watch. Okay, have you watched um what is it? Argyle? Is that the name of the movie? What's it?
I have not watched Argyle yet.
Okay, good movie. I liked it. We watched that the other day. We watched American Nightmare, which was like a Netflix or something docu-series about the real life Gone Girl that actually wasn't a Gone Girl, like got accused of it, but it's interesting. So you know the movie Gone Girl.
I do.
So
Have you
like
seen Gone Girl?
I have watched that movie.
Yeah. Just
Um
checking.
Yeah. And so like a year or so later in California, there's like this essentially the same type of story. And they accuse the girl of like trying to play out the movie essentially. And turns out they were wrong. Like she really had gotten kidnapped and like there was somebody behind it, like
All right.
all of
My
that.
wife and I will watch this. We're
Yeah. So
into it.
anyway,
We watched a
yeah.
couple documentaries recently. We're in.
Yes. So it's like a 3 episode thing, American Nightmare. Anyway, so now we have one more night without our kids tonight. We are planning on watching right now Anatomy of a Fall. I guess this is supposed to be a thriller or something like that. Are you familiar? Are you not? Do you have any
I've
other
seen it.
recommendations? Okay. Thoughts?
It's a long like trial movie. Like, do you guys like legal like
I,
kind of movies?
I don't mind it. Like I kind of grew up like watching like, yeah, some of those. Like I like A Time to Kill. I like
Okay.
uh oh my gosh, what's A Few Good Men? Like those are,
Sure.
those type of things. I'm not saying it's one to one, but lots of trial
Yeah.
stuff in those ones.
And then how do you do with international films?
I mean, I turn on like in terms of what?
Yeah, like some people don't like reading subtitles.
Oh
Like
no,
some people
we watch every movie. I watch every movie with subtitles because I hate missing stuff. So I watch every movie with subtitles.
Okay. Then yeah, I mean I loved it. I thought it was great.
Here's my
It's
question: Is it
probably in my
bendy? Is it twisty? Is it like is there some stuff or no?
it's more character driven, I guess
Okay,
I would say,
okay,
than like plot driven.
got you. Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Trying to think what I would recommend for you tonight. What do we got here?
I would like something that is a little bit of, oh shoot, I didn't see that coming. I even told Randy
Oh,
I will even step into the realm of stuff I hate. Like if I have to watch a little bit of gore or something like that to get the twist,
okay.
I will sacrifice. I would like something a little bendy.
So okay. Okay. That's
And you
so I liked The Killer on Netflix a lot.
we already watched that via your recommendation.
That
Good
has
movie.
some of that.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Oh man. This is hard. This
Okay,
is actually a little bit difficult. Now let me just like find
the comments are letting us down as well. Like everybody was active and then we brought up movies.
yeah. So okay. Things I've liked recently. No One Will Save You was from earlier this year.
Okay.
Uh Extraction 2 or the Extraction movies on Netflix in general. Have you seen
Okay.
either of those?
I have not.
Yeah, watch the Extraction movies. They're like action movies. They can get a little bit gory though. I'll say. You want twisty and turny. Uh I mean, Talk to Me is like a horror movie,
Oh no,
but
like
it's twisty. Let's see
how
here.
gory? Like Saw gory? Like because
No,
like
no, 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 no. No, nothing
oh
like that
okay.
at all.
Because
Yeah.
like the Saw ones, like I watched some
There's
like
one scene that gets a little bit gory.
okay. What one was that? What was it called?
Um oh, Talk to Me.
Okay.
Uh have you seen the Equalizer movies with Denzel?
I don't think so.
Those are good. There are 3
Have
of
you
those. The 3rd one just came out this year.
have you watched Dune? That was that I know that people always talk about that.
Dune's really good. Do you do well with sci-fi?
So that's what it was. Yeah, Randy brought up sci-fi and I was out. Yeah, out.
It's definitely sci-fi. Dune is really good. Like you should watch it. But if you don't do sci-fi super well, then like maybe not the best idea.
Have
Um,
have you watched
Go ahead.
Oppenheimer?
I have. It's 3 hours. It's probably the best movie I've seen in the last like 3 or 4 years. but it's 3 hours and you should be prepared for it to be 3 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
Anatomy of a Fall is long, by the way. It's like 2.5 hours.
2.5.
Like,
Yeah.
be prepared for that.
Yep.
I would look if the choice is like Anatomy of a Fall or Oppenheimer, I would pick Oppenheimer, even like accounting for the length.
Yeah.
A couple people have mentioned American Fiction in the comments. I thought American Fiction was really good. It's just not like twisty or turny or anything like you're kind of saying. I keep forgetting that I can go farther back with you and say like, movies that have been out for a while.
Yeah. I don't need. It doesn't have to be recent, and most likely I haven't seen anything because I don't go to movie theaters, so I haven't.
Right. So, man, my wife and I watch a lot of horror movies. I'm looking through my letterbox right now. Have you seen Knives Out?
Yeah, good one.
Okay.
Yep.
Have you seen the second one, Glass Onion?
Yes. Yep. We watch them both.
Okay.
I like those. Yeah.
Have you seen? I mean, you should watch Ambulance, but like that's not like twisty or turny. Honestly, Anatomy of a Fall is like a pretty good, like solid, like pick if that's what you're
Okay.
looking for.
Okay.
It's more character than twisty turny, but it's not bad. Maybe I'll
Okay.
text you. I feel like this is
Yeah.
bad podcasting right now, but like I can probably find something interesting that's like twisty turny.
Great Bait brings up 127 hours. I've actually have seen that one. So
That's fine. I didn't love that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think more on this,
yeah,
Bryce.
we'll have a little bit of time here post recording for me to grab some food and stuff before we start. So you got
Nice.
15 or 20 minutes to come up with something.
Oh, have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once? That's definitely twisty and turny.
Okay.
It won Best Picture last year.
Okay.
It's really good.
Okay.
Really fun. A lot of energy. Kind of crazy, like, but very twisty and like all over the map. Not like gory or anything like that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's a good one. That's actually what you should watch. If that's what you're looking for and you're looking for not 2.5 hours of marital strife with Anatomy of a Fall. Yeah. I haven't seen Saltburn yet. Ryan Heyer brought up Saltburn. That one is certainly supposed to be twisty.
Okay. Awesome.
But I can't recommend that. All right, Bryce.
Cool.
Tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter. You can find some NBA draft stuff on Substack. And if you want to listen to more Pistons content, the Pistons Pulse. Other than that, here at Game Theory with Sam.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. We'll be back at some point later this week. We want to do an Alperen Şengün thing because it looks like he's going to be out for a good amount of time. What else do I have? I'm going to have a mock draft next week for the NCAA tournament, so you guys can like be prepared for who to look at. Beyond that, though, that's what we've got. So until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.